right, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I just have to preface with saying that I will not be able to be here for the full validity of the 60 minutes that has been allotted to me. I just wanted to pop in briefly to because I caught the tail end of, just this discussion, and I read the title, and it seemed very compelling. Death, COVID-19, Omicron, and taxes. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, what's going on with Omicron at the moment, Malcolm? You know, it's spreading so quick, even in Australia, right? You know, people can't go out to restaurants much anymore. People have lost jobs, especially in service industry, travel. Taxes have gone up as well. Inflation is going up all the time. Electricity, gas, people are being evicted. I was listening to, I don't know if you listen to Fox News, but people are just getting evicted all the time in the US.
Yeah, man. I'd like to add to that as well. And I hate to be speaking on such a negative note, but it's the harsh reality of the circumstances that we have to deal with now. Because what variant is this? Like the third variant now?
I think so. Yeah.
3 different variants that have not only tumbled the economy, but United States market. So, just as a brief synopsis of what I do. Is that I cover a lot of market news and trends of what's been happening in both in politics and also just with the market as well. And as I've been closely monitoring the markets, I've seen quite a lot of interesting data that has been indicative of a very, very negative sentiment of what's been going around. And it's very unfortunate that people have lost their lives at the expense of these variants, in addition to, the other existential issues, whereas you have a demographic of individuals that are not willing to, and it's a very sensitive topic, so I have to speak very delicately here. We have people that are not willing to, subdue to taking, as they say, the jab. But it goes deeper than that. You have businesses crumbling at the expense of these variants because, as you mentioned, people were losing their jobs. People don't even want to go back to work. People are afraid to even step outside of their homes, and a lot of businesses are actually switching to remote environments where people work from home now too. So you have that kind of change. And then on top of that, consumer prices are, despite them rising because a lot of people are buying online now, businesses that are not really susceptible to integrating to online advertising and selling their products, they're losing tons of money. Some businesses are even going bankrupt, and their spreadsheets are looking absolutely horrendous on the market. And there's just a whole domino effect of issues that have impacted the markets in addition to people's everyday lives. And now people are extremely uncertain. Believe it or not, one of the topics that I'm going to cover on the live stream that I'm going to be doing later, which is why I won't be able to be here as long, is the fact that because of health concerns with the Omicron variant, it's safe to assume that predictable unpredictability is going to probably be the new norm for a while, until not only the economy starts to gain gradual recovery, but the markets as well, because we need healthy growth, we need healthy recovery, which will help increase people's confidence in consumer prices, in labor as well, because the United States Department of Labor reported their employee payroll, non-farm payrolls, which basically means the amount of people that are getting jobs, that they're not really seeking these jobs. There's over 11 million jobs in the United States of America that are available for people to seek, and only 250,000 of them are actually being taken by the month. Last November's United States labor job report came back, and there was only 250 of them. Prior to that, in October, there was 374,000 of them. And despite the slow job growth, that's one of few variables to consider, and how people are really starting to change their lifestyles. People really are starting to just think to themselves, what really matters to me right now in my life, especially since the ones that are closest to me had either, passed away at the expense of this virus going around, or or considering the things that have been happening around me, I want to be close to my family. I love everybody around me in my life, and I want to spend as much time as I can. So it's really making people think thoroughly about their lifestyles, about what's important to them now. And with all of that has been happening with the inflation that the Fed is trying to tackle, the Federal Reserve, that's something that we will have to unfortunately get used to, because as these balance sheets become more unstable when it comes to these businesses, people become less confident about their longevity and sustainability. And if they become more non-confident, these businesses are not going to make that much money, and they're going to lose out on a lot of growth.
It's the same in Australia, Malcolm. Small businesses are fucked big time. And corporations are just taken over, you know. Like if you go to a corporation, you go shopping, you see those automatic checkouts, and you only see one or two staff members that are serving. Half the time they don't know what they're doing when you go to Walmart, or you have Walmart over there where you are. And it's quite sad that small businesses are dying out.
Well, here's the thing to consider. Yes, smaller businesses are losing lots of money. However, bigger businesses are also losing out on lots of money as well. The numbers are not extremely impactful to them because they have over billions of dollars, but their revenue on a monthly basis has been increasing. So on the stock market, these companies release on because there's four fiscal quarters in a year. And on these quarterly reports that these businesses release on the stock market reflects their financials for that previous quarter. And a lot of these companies, when they report their quarterly earnings, it's been getting less and less, and they've been losing out of money, which reduces investors' sentiment. And then you have people, of course, the huge labor shortage, and of course the supply shortage. The cost of production is ridiculously high, which is making it almost unfathomable for people to acquire this kind of supply, because there isn't enough labor there in production, which once again is creating a huge domino effect, which will affect it already has affected truckers, because a lot of truckers don't want to get out there anymore, or they're not making enough money because the supply are getting stuck on these ships. It's really crazy. And so now they're like, well, why should I waste my time sitting here and idling on a dock for over 12 hours a day to wait for a shipment if I'm not going to make anything from it? Because now they have to meet these expectations. These businesses have to meet these expectations, and they've been failing at meeting these expectations, which has been making them miss their quarterly projections. Now these bigger businesses are losing out on money, and in turn also smaller businesses are losing out on money as well. Because let's say if I own a small pizza shop and I buy my goods from, let's say, Italy, and I have my product on a ship I'm still waiting to receive. Let's already factor in the fact that supply for me to order it is going to probably cost through the roof because production is already at a low. So now I'm paying more for my goods, in addition to the fact that I'm waiting for it. And if I'm getting a lot of demand and I'm having customers come to my pizza shop and I don't have that supply, I'm already missing out on the money that I could have made, in addition to the fact that I'm spending more on supplies. So now I'm missing out on money, and I'm losing money, and I'm missing out on money. And now my annual or my quarterly results are just turning out terrible. My spreadsheets are turning out terrible, and because I'm a smaller business and I rent out space, I probably won't be able to pay for my rent or the lease for that particular for me to hold that space for my business. So now I'm probably going to have to file for bankruptcy, and that's going to create more issues down the line. And of course, people are going to say, well, if this business is going to start closing down, where else can I get my food? Like the Starbucks near me literally just opened after being closed down for 3 months. They missed out on so much money. It's been ridiculous. And that's only one example.
I thought Starbucks were able to do takeaway. So how come they closed down, Malcolm, for 3 months? What happened?
Supply versus demand. People want their coffee. But
they're a corporation. You know, it's like McDonald's. You'd think they'd be the last to close down because, you know, they've got all this money in.
Well, the thing is that they're exhausting their resources at an exponential rate because as businesses started to open up, after people thought the pandemic was going to eventually end, you had people eager to get out of their houses, ready to get out into the world, have fun, start buying stuff, going to the stores. Like if I could show you, like if this app had like a way to like send pictures and stuff, I've walked into many stores where their shelves have been empty, literally empty of product. But when you have all of these consumers that want to finally get out and say, okay, I've been locked in my home for over a year now, and I want to go out and buy this stuff, these businesses, these supply chains can't handle that amount of demand when they have a huge lack of supply that they've been ordering because they didn't expect an increased volume of consumer demand, which is creating tension for these supply chains. So now they're struggling with supply in addition to an insurmountable amount of demand that they cannot handle. And now it's it's forcing them to not only reduce the labor and the amount of people that they have on payroll, saying, hey, because we don't have supply, there's no reason for us to be open. They're missing out on revenue, and it's creating more issues. So now, instead of trying to make do with the lack of supply that they have, they're just closing because they'd rather be closed than, you know, disappoint their customers. But in turn, it's kind of creating a double negative there because they're missing out on customers and people don't want to go there anymore, which is forcing people to feel more comfortable to switching to, and that's a good thing because I think there's actually hope for smaller businesses. Here's why. These supply chains are looking a lot less attractive for the average consumer considering the huge labor shortage. McDonald's drive-thrus, Starbucks drive-thrus are being extremely packed throughout, like leading to drive-thrus extending all the way through the street. And people think that's extreme. People have lives to live, jobs to go to. And when you want to go to a Starbucks or a business and you see a long drive-through, you're going to go, oh, I don't want to go there. That line.
Exactly.
So I'm going to try to go to a different business now. Or they're going to try to go to a local business where they give their supply and they produce their own supply where they can actually access those goods. So these smaller businesses that have these goods that they can provide to consumers are going to look more attractive to the consumers because if you go to a long drive-through, you're not going to want to wait. So why not just go to a smaller business where they give you these natural coffee beans or these coffee grounds and you're not going to have to wait. And instead you buy yourself a coffee or an espresso maker and you make it from the comfort of your own home and you're ready to go instead of waiting in a long drive-through. So there's definitely hope for smaller businesses. Of course, it'll take some time for them to grow, but there's definitely potential for them other than bigger supply chains, at least at this current moment.
I mean, I can tell you a funny story. I went to a franchise restaurant named Rashay's, and I ordered a coffee for $2. You know, it's cheap. It took them 15 minutes just to make me a small cappuccino, and I was pissed.
I would be.
I thought I should have just gone to the gas station and just made it myself. So I'm not going back.
Exactly, and that's where everybody's mindset is starting to shift towards. If I can do it myself without having to waste my own time, taking my time out of the day, waiting literally an hour in a drive-through, then I'm going to do exactly just that because I've even noticed myself switching to a more localized business and company because these businesses like Walmart, or even Dollar General, because I'm a cheapskate, don't even have the sufficient supply, and their trucks have been later because, once again, these supply constraints, it's taken longer for them to get their trucks with sufficient supply. So I'm going to go to a local business or a local company that produces these goods that I can attain and acquire.
Exactly.
But I'm going to go to a local business where I can acquire these supplies. And it'll be a lot more convenient for me. People want convenience right now. That's what they want. And that's not what they're getting with these supply chains or with these bigger businesses.
But I don't mind Starbucks coffee.
I'm sorry? Say again?
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're popping in and out on over here, at least on my end.
Okay. Yeah, Starbucks coffee, right? It's a shame that they closed for 3 months. From what you were telling me.
Yeah, ashamed is an understatement. It's a huge understatement, because that's only just one of many examples to the effects of, and one can attribute it to the pandemic, but one can also attribute it to the fact that this is something that was going to happen regardless, because when you have rising interest rates, when you have inflation, these businesses have to actually account for the revenue that they're not only going to lose, but the amount of money that it's going to take to have to pay for the expenses for the rising goods because of these interest rates. Now I'm paying more money for the product that I purchased for my business to sustain longevity. So now I have to charge 0.25 cents more for my product. So now that's rising my product, because I need to make more money for my business. And if I'm not making that much money for my business, then I have to raise the price for my product. And now it's going to look more unattractive to the average consumer, which eventually is going to make them go, I used to pay $2 for this coffee. Why is it $3 now? Oh, yeah, it's because, we lost a lot of money and we kind of need to recoup the losses that we made. So we kind of have to raise the rates for the services that we charge. And that's going to happen all across the board. They're going to have to charge more for the services. It's going to create a huge
going on. It's the same thing in Australia, Malcolm. Food is going up all the time, especially at McDonald's. It's $15 just for a small cheeseburger meal now.
That is ridiculous.
And your McDonald's is much bigger than ours. Ours, it's nothing what you get here with the size. Do you guys still have that super size?
I believe so. I don't really eat fast food as much. Try to stay away from that. But I will say, and I don't know if it's like this where you live, but in the United States, a lot of these supply chains are either are franchises that are privately owned by privately owned individuals, so they get to also kind of control the prices of the services. If my McDonald's franchise is not making as much in quarterly results as it once used to be, then clearly I need to make some adjustments. I need to make some adjustments because I need to pay for that, for the sustainability of my business. Otherwise, I'm going to lose money and eventually force myself into bankruptcy. So now you have, and then in addition to that, people don't want to go back to work because they're not. They feel as though the rates for employment will not suffice. It's not enough. If I'm used to making $13.50, because before pre-pandemic, McDonald's, an average McDonald's worker used to get paid about between $11 and $14. Now, because of all the things that have been happening and all of these supply of shortages and these inflationary pressures, because it's not just affecting the prices of these products, it's also affecting the expenses that go into hiring these workers as well. So now you have to pay these workers more, because in order to get that labor there, so you can actually produce that supply, you have to pay for that labor. And if people don't want to work, then you have to incentivize them that in some kind of way. Like, it's gotten as bad as businesses incentivizing workers to come back to work. Hey, you can come back to work with us. We'll charge you, we'll pay you at least $2 to $3 more than what you used to get paid when you were with us. In addition to that, we'll also pay you $500 as a sign up, as an application bonus, because we understand that we're failing as a business, but we don't want to make it seem that way. We just want to make sure that you're loyal with us. But now people are not even biting on that. They don't even want that. They're doing their own thing, which is why there's this phenomenon going on around called and you're going to probably hear this more frequently, the big quit, or as some people are calling it, the great resignation. People are starting to realize what their true worth is, what their true value is, and what they want to do for themselves. So now that people don't want to go and work at a brick and mortar shop, or work a 9 to 5, feeling enslaved, like they have to do this, or like they have to work under these certain hours, and these silly working conditions, because now it's created a lot of tension in work environments. They're like, well, I want to avoid all of that and do my own thing and make my own money without all that stress. So now businesses are stressing with that, and it's creating more issues. So
the issue I was going to talk about before, Malcolm, was about the landlords and people who can't pay their rent because of COVID. Now, if you're a landlord, what can you do? You can't, in Australia, they just can't go and evict you straight away. There's a lot of paperwork. What's it like in the US?
Well, when you're leasing and you're also renting, the conditions are slightly different. However, the effects are still the same, because as a landlord, your responsibility is to ensure that your tenants are at least paying on their bills. But considering that at one point there was a piece of legislation signed by Congress that allowed a little bit of reprieve, meaning a little bit of time for people to pay their bills because they were losing out on money, because a lot of these people got furloughed from their jobs and they couldn't pay to live or pay for anything. They gave these landlords the opportunity to allow people to wait on paying on their expenses. And unfortunately, it impacted a certain demographic of people that when they got these stimulus checks, that they didn't save their money, because eventually when that time came up and that what is the word here? When that legislation eventually expired and people actually had to finally start paying on their rent, they didn't have the money when the time came up. So these landlords had no other choice but to say, hey, sorry, we gave you this amount of time, and even Congress allowed you this amount of time, but you can't stay here. And I'm sorry. And it's a very sad reality, but what are they doing? I honestly, I don't really invest into real estate, but from what I've seen with my own eyes, people are either choosing to leave these residents because interest rates for the rates that they once used to pay are rising for their service, for living in these conditions, or at these apartments are raising, which are becoming more unattractive and more unattainable and unrealistic. First and foremost, people are leaving. They're saying, hey, I don't want to live here anymore, or they just can't afford it. They simply cannot afford it. So what's been happening is people have been deciding to move back in with their parents, or move back in with a friend, or it's the trend in people buying residences collectively. Let's say that you, me, and 3 others decide to go in on one property. That's what's been happening more recently. Think of it like a Netflix account. If I start a Netflix account and I have a few friends that want to hop on a Netflix account, and we all pay collectively on that Netflix account for that monthly service, a lot of people are doing that kind of thing, where they're just deciding to migrate into an environment where they pay on it together, because it's becoming, at least where I live, because I live in an eastern state, almost unattainable to have to pay for rent by yourself. So now you need help. You need that assistance. So either people are moving in together, or they're moving in with their parents or somebody that they can rely on, because that's just where our economy is shifting right now.
So what do you do? I'd like to get your opinion. If you've had a job and then you've lost it and then you can't pay your rent, what do you do?
If I had a job and I lost it and I cannot pay rent, that's a good question.
Because of economic, not because it was your fault. Economic, like what we're living in today of COVID.
Well,
and
if I lost my job, I would try to apply for any unemployment benefits that I could receive. I would try to squeeze the government of any money that I can give that would give me any form of aid, because that's literally everyone's last resort at this point. Or apply for a loan, as sad as it would be to say, because nobody wants to apply for a loan. Nobody wants to take out debt, but that's been a lot of people's last resort, which has, and that'll deviate into another topic, created more issues down the line. But either applying for a loan, trying to get a longer time for my term, basically giving more time, or I would negotiate with my landlord and saying, hey, I need more time. I need more time to pay for this. Can you at least let me pay on small installments? Give me some time here. I will honor in good faith for what I'm paying for my rent. Just give me some time. But these landlords don't have that time, because they have to pay their bigger entities. They have to answer to higher power as well. So now that's creating tensions for them as well. So to answer your question, I honestly would I would hope that because one of the things that a lot of people and financial analysts are telling people to do, which is really hard and attainable for the average American citizen, is to have an emergency fund. That fund that if circumstances provide, you can tap into under mitigating circumstances and say that you can pay for that. That's that rainy day fund. Tap into that rainy day fund. They say that you should always have that rainy day fund. But some people, unfortunately, don't have that rainy day fund. So if I lost my job, once again, I would apply for unemployment.
I've heard of people in the States, they're renting their houses on a credit card. You know, those Amex unlimited spending credit cards and putting on all this huge debt. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate contingency that people are taking as a means to try to get by, because if you don't have money in the bank, then you're going to have to rely on banks, and banks will either approve you or they don't. And if they do approve you, you're eventually going to have to owe that money back and have to pay that money back on interest, which the bank will make from that. But people have been defaulting on their loans lately. Charge-offs for banks have been going through the roof, which has been causing issues for banks, for bigger central banks. So now that these banks have to account for these huge charge-offs and these defaulted accounts, because what happens is once a bank account gets defaulted or a credit card account gets defaulted, it goes to a collections agency. And these collections agencies will harass you for a series of 6 months or so. And if that balance isn't satisfied, then that balance gets sent back to the bank. And once that bank has to charge off that balance, that goes into their quarterly expenses, which means the banks have to take more money out and ask the Federal Reserve, which is a bigger financial entity, for more reprieve, for more leniency. So now it's creating a whole domino effect of issues that banks can't even track.
I mean, these collection agencies or debt collectors can harass you, but they can't force you to pay that. If you can't pay it, then what can they do?
Absolutely nothing. One thing they can do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, okay, they can call you, send you all the letters in the mail, but they can't force you to pay back your debt. If you don't have the money, well, I'm confused, man.
What'll happen, one of a few things that could happen as a result, and I only have a few more minutes here, is that if these collections agencies don't get these balances or these accounts satisfied, is that they will send it to an institution or a law firm that will try to subpoena you. So what banks can do is they can take you or send you a summons, which in this case means that they want to send you to court in order for you to in order to try to get you to pay that balance. Basically saying, hey, we're going to take you to court if you do not pay this balance. Okay. And one way that they'll try to get you for that balance is if you don't pay it, is that they will try to garnish your wages. So let's say you get a job. You finally get a job, and after you've been harassed by a collections agency, you've already been sent to court by a bank, they're going to start taking money gradually in smaller amounts from your wages and what you're getting paid from your job. And that's one way that they'll get you for it. Or otherwise they'll report you to the IRS. It's sad, and I hate to scuff it off, but that's, once again, a collateral damage.
The last thing before you go is, if you're someone on disability pension and you're sick, right, and this is happening, and you got to pay medication, you got to pay the rent, you got to eat. I don't understand, if someone's on disability, right, and people are, and they're sick, there's no way they're going to be able to pay their debt, because they got, you got to have medication, doctor's bills. This is what I don't understand.
I think a lot of us are in a state of uncertainty and confusion, and I think that ties back into the point of the new norm, as I mentioned earlier, of predictable unpredictability being one of the new norms. And I'm sure that there will hopefully be a way in which people can hedge against the financial debts that they've accrued. I hope that there is something to come from this. One piece of advice that I can offer people is to be just very wary of your finances and to be careful. If you're going to buy a pair of shoes, just hold off on that. Just hold off on that, please. And if you're in a situation that is unimaginable and it seems like you're digging yourself in debt, then honestly, life is very short.
I mean, medical debt can happen to anyone.
Exactly.
But I know you got to go. I'd like to thank you for coming on the Stephen Shields radio show, Malcolm. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you guys can find me in my profile on the Wisdom app. You guys can follow me on my Instagram. I actually plan on going live pretty soon and doing a market update, or you guys can just use the links there. I'm going to follow you on here, Steven. Did I pronounce your name right?
Sure. Yeah, that's it. And feel free to come back on when I'm going live, because this is awesome chat.
Oh, yeah, man. Most definitely. So I will definitely see you in the next discussion, and I appreciate you having me on the show, man. You guys take care.
You're welcome, Malcolm, and have a good evening where you are, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Likewise, my friend, likewise.
Okay, bye. All right, that was Malcolm. That was an amazing talk with Malcolm, and I really like to thank all my listeners today on the Stephen Shields radio show. I'm about to close the room right now. This podcast will be available on Friday. I'll be taking 2 weeks off. I just need a break. I'll be back in 2021. I might even do one more episode as well to finish off the year. Not 2021, 2022. Subscribe to the podcast, turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode every Friday at 6 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. I'd like to thank all my listeners for tuning in or even just listening. And I'm Stephen Shields. Bye for now.